All right, before I get going, just a few announcements. Paul Comsey has got a number of courses on in Perth, so he usually, he's presented at our user group a number of times and usually flies around to the US and UK and teaches these courses. So he's actually teaching them in Perth now, which is great. So one on in 17th and 18th of September, and another one, so he's got an issue mapping course on in September as well. And he's also organised for Andrew Woodward, who's a well-known SharePoint server MVP from the UK, to head over to Perth to run a course on innovation games. So it's all about game theory and how you can use it for understanding customers and that sort of thing. All right. Okay, so last month I was awarded a SharePoint Server MVP award. It's my second such award, and before that, our last MVP we had in Perth was Jeremy Thate, who's moved over to New York City and works for AvePoint as their Chief Product Architect. And we've also got another SharePoint Server MVP in Perth, so Khalil Rahman. And that's great. So Khalil will hopefully be presenting on SharePoint Server 2013 in the next month's user group meeting. So good stuff. Okay. And the user group. So if you're ever interested in finding out what events we've got coming up and planned, that's the URL for the site, or put in Perth SharePoint user group into your favorite search engine, and the website gets updated usually a few weeks before we have an event. Okay, so on to the talk. What's new in SharePoint Server 2013? So I'm a SharePoint Solutions Architect with NEC IT Solutions. So that was formerly CSG. We got bought out by NEC a few months ago, and so now it's NEC IT Solutions. And I guess the format for today will be running for about an hour. Then we're going to have pizza arriving, and have about a 15-minute break for pizza. And then after the lunch break, we've got Barvik Merchant, our BI guy, presenting on Power View and all that business intelligence type stuff. All right, so straight into it. So today I'm going to start with focusing on the user experience. So that's the main area of investment, it's quite impressive. Then get into design and web content management. A little walkthrough of the new social enhancements that we have with SharePoint 2013, walkthrough of search, then a bit about the developer story and apps for SharePoint, then a whole bunch of extra stuff and Q&A at the end. Okay. So late last week, Microsoft released a new logo. So that's their new logo down there in the bottom right-hand corner. They've had this old logo for 25 years. So Microsoft is doing a big push in, rebranding and focusing on user experience. So it's a pretty exciting time to be working with Microsoft technologies. So, I mean, next year we've got SharePoint Server 2013 should be RTMing. But we've got Windows Server 2012, SQL 2012, we've got Office 2013, Xbox enhancements, Windows 8, Surface, Windows Phone 8, so a whole range of new, versions of products that Microsoft has. And with this, I mean, a lot of the flack Microsoft's got in the past is with the whole usability and design. They're up against Apple and Google and whatnot, and most of the criticism Microsoft's getting is sort of around usability in comparison to these other companies. So they're investing heavily in this area and focusing on that moving forward, which is great. Okay, so user experience. Okay, so user experience is significantly improved. It's one of the main areas of investment. They've taken the philosophy of content over Chrome, and it's very simplistic, can be used in touch or tablet devices. It's quite common with each new version of SharePoint. Microsoft likes to completely revamp the user interface, which makes it fun if you want to upgrade and you've invested significantly in custom branding. You basically, with each version, have to redo it. Nothing's changed with respect to that. it's a composed look. So they've got this nice new theming engine, which I'll provide a demo of, and so a whole bunch of sort of out of the box new composed look. So this is sort of replacing the whole theming engine, and this stuff's great. Like, you can brand a SharePoint site and make it look quite nice without yet investing in any design work. So hopefully, yeah, people can focus on using this stuff before they go ahead and start hacking around implementing custom designs. Okay, so it's been completely reworked. It's HTML5 based. So PowerPoint is no longer used to create custom themes. You would have remembered with SharePoint 2010 came out, they were like, oh, you can use PowerPoint themes to brand SharePoint. Yeah, don't think anyone used that functionality for branding, so they've removed that. And yeah, you can implement richer themes quite quickly and easily. You can apply a background image quite easily, apply a palette and fonts, and have a live preview of the new look before you apply it. Web content management. So they've also invested heavily in web content management. So one thing is, yeah, supporting the tools that designers use. So previous versions, you had to be proficient and use SharePoint Designer quite a lot. So they've opened it up so you can use Dreamweaver. You can use a whole bunch of other design tools. So you can actually map your design folders to a folder and basically hook up most design applications. And so they're basically lowering the bar. One of the issues with implementing custom designs in SharePoint is you need a designer who's also got SharePoint experience and knowledge, which, yeah, can be a bit hard to come by. So they're trying to, I guess, open it up and make it available for all sorts of web designers to get in there. So there's a nice design manager tool in there that you can go through and, yeah, implement designs quite easily. It's got device channels, so that's sort of user agent string based targeting to different devices, so you can create designs that are targeted to iPhones or Android phones or tablets and whatnot, and it's got a whole subsystem that allows you to manage and work with that. It's got cross-site publishing, so that's quite neat. You can now share content between site collections a lot more easily, which is, yeah, one of the main shortcomings you had with earlier versions of SharePoint. Site collections are somewhat self-contained and it's hard to show and aggregate content between them. You can easily upload and embed video, so you can sort of upload a video and then get embed code out of that. You can also easily insert an iframe, so content authors can go in and whack in an iframe and basically easily show any content they want from external websites on the page. They've done some work on URLs, so a whole system around changing the URL that's output to the user to make it more search engine optimization friendly. You can implement navigation using managed metadata, which is quite neat. So another problem with the whole multiple site collections was having common navigation across them all. People invested in custom solutions to meet that, but what you can do now is implement a navigation hierarchy using managed metadata and have your navigation menus run off managed metadata. So that's quite neat. They've got a whole variations in content translation, including a whole machine translation system in the product. Okay, browser support. So they've done quite a lot of work with browser support. You can see now Google Chrome and Mozilla Firefox are fully supported. We've got support for IE8 and IE9. Funnily enough, no support for IE6 or 7. So yeah, you might want to look to upgrade to IE8 within the next year or two. And a bit of limited support for Apple Safari as well. So that's great. So one of the biggest issues users had was, oh, I want to use my Mozilla Firefox, or I want to use Chrome. That's what I use for everything else. I don't want to have to use Internet Explorer. So now, yeah, you've got more freedom to use the browsers that you want to use. Mobile. So they've invested a lot in mobile. You've got your previous that really basic mobile view, but more I guess newer contemporary views. can implement sort of different layouts and designs depending on the device you're browsing to it with, which is quite neat. Most public websites are now implementing solutions like that, where they create targeted user interfaces for different types of devices. You also have Office mobile web apps, so using a phone or a tablet device, you can now easily browse through Excel, PowerPoint and Word documents. And they've also implemented push notifications, so where you had like a phone and you can get updates coming through automatically as a service, there's built-in support for that. Okay. So they've even got a page on mobile device browser support. So you can see there's support for Windows Phone. We've got iOS and Android phone support, and down the tablet column we've got support for iPads, which is quite neat. I mean, we've seen in the last few years the explosion in use of iPads, and now you can use your iPad more easily with the next version of SharePoint. But yeah, no Android tablet support. Okay. So demo time. All right. Well, firstly, if you haven't had a look at new Outlook.com, if you've got a Hotmail account, you can transfer it over. You can see with Outlook.com, the look and feel there is actually quite consistent with SharePoint. So the nice blue look and use of menus and that nice usability enhancement. So I'll swap on over to this. So this is the new team site. So we'll just go through some of the page elements. So you've got your top navigation here. You've got your side navigation down the side here. So there's a nice easy edit links button, so I can click that and go add a link. And then save, and there I've just quite easily added a new menu item there. For the ribbon, if we click on this, you can see it's got this nice shoom sort of down view, which is pretty cool. And this thing, so this nice sort of new UI. So yeah, funnily enough, Microsoft, we're calling this the new Metro UI, but they were threatened with legal action by a company called Metro, and they're not calling it that anymore. But yeah, you've got this nice new sort of tile UI view, and this is based on promoted links. So you can even create, there's a new list type called a promoted links list, where you can go in and sort of put in these different images and URLs and whatnot, and display this sort of information on your page. And yeah, you've got this nice sort of getting started with your site. But yeah, with default things that come with a team site, you've got this nice remove this button. So, I mean, when you created team sites in MOS 2007 or SharePoint 2010, what did you always have in them? So you had in the top right corner, you had those three people collaborating. You had like, people leaning over a page, like, and yeah, it looked cool, but one of the first things everyone did was edit the page and delete that web part, get rid of it, and having to do that for every new site gets annoying. So, I mean, if you know how to do all this stuff, you can just go remove this, and it's gone. It says, yeah, the getting started task available from settings menu at any time. Cool. So nice team site. Up in the top right hand corner, got a newsfeed link. SkyDrive, sort of like your My Documents stored in your My Sites. A Sites link. Your nice login control. But there's, funny enough, not a sign in with another user. So we've got like a About Me and a sign out. So About Me takes you through to your My Site. So the Site Actions menu is this little gear here. So you can see with this, you can go in and edit page, new page, add an app, view site contents, etc. Help button. This smiley face is just due to this being a preview. That should be gone in the next version. So share. So they've made it quite easy to add users. So instead of going in and your site settings, people in groups, and finding a right group and messing around with that through quite a lot of clicking, you can click the share button, and there you go. You can add people's names And sort of as you type it, it suggests people there. Okay, John, Barry Johnson, John Evans. And so the default is invite people to edit because it knows you're in a team site. If I click share, done. I've just quickly added 2 users and they can go in and edit this team site. So that's quite quick and easy. So they're calling that sharing now. So follow. You can follow pretty much anything in SharePoint 2013. So including following list items, documents, sites, and if anyone does any changes or work on it, it comes through on your newsfeed. Yeah, click that a few times and go away. Okay, so we've got sync for synchronizing the edit page button. You've got this nice button here called focus on content. So if you click on that, it basically does this. Gets rid of your side navigation menu, your top menu, and you get this sort of nice view. So let's go into this document library. All right. So it says new document or drag files here. So what I can do is come here and grab a whole bunch of files. And without switching to Explorer view, drag and drop. And there you go, it's uploading. And yeah, slowly but surely. So that's quite easy and quick, right? Upload completed, 9 added, and we can then sort of dismiss this message. Okay, so views. So we've got the all documents view here. I can come in. You'll notice this sort of dot or ellipsis menu quite a lot. So for each item, we've got this dot menu, and it throws up this, they're calling it the call out menu. And then you've got sort of another menu following on from that. And that's quite nice. It's just a simple click. One of the issues you had with SharePoint 2010 was you had that edit control block menu, right? Where I always loved sort of training new users and saying, oh, okay, can you click that little item menu for that? Don't click on the link of the document. Just hover over it, and an arrow will appear, and you see the user just. It takes a while for. I mean, once you get used to it, it's easy. But I mean, this is a lot more intuitive, right? You can see if you're using like a tablet device, it's easy. You can just touch stuff. That's quite neat. Okay, so views. So we've got this all documents view here. If I click on this, I can create a view. Let's start from an existing view. Call it new view. So the view stuff looks pretty much the same as the previous version. Hit OK. Cool. So views are shown side by side next to each other like a menu. So that's also neat. Like, yeah, previous version of SharePoint, you had that sort of view selector, which intuitively people didn't know was there, or that you could click on it and that it had views under it and whatnot. So this is easy. Like, you can add multiple views and they show up as like another sort of sub-navigation there. We've got this find a file, which lets you search within the document library. That's not going to show results now because I haven't crawled this new content I've added, but I'll sort of demo that later on. So yeah, that's quite neat. You can do a search, and it uses a search engine and just filters the document library to what you want to see. That's quite neat. So what else can I do? Okay, if I click on go back to this, all documents. Create a column. Okay, so one thing you'll notice as well in the terminology of it is it's really nice and user friendly. So now it says working on it, and it's got a lot of it looks nice. So new column. Okay, so what I might also do is show a custom list. So click back on browse. Your view all site content is now just view site contents. You can get to it from here or via here. But yeah, funnily enough, the whole calling things lists is gone. Now everything's an app. So here we've got our sort of default starting document libraries and lists. You then click on this to add an app. Yeah, looks like it. So, yeah, you'll probably get a request to add that back in. So when I go to add an app, you've got some sort of noteworthy suggestions. I've got an app here I've added from the App Store. If we go through here, there's that new promoted links. Let's have a look at some of these. Let's create a custom list. It's working on it. My new list. Okay, my new list. Okay. Okay, so what's neat is I can add a new item or edit this list. If I click on this, goes into this view. Check this out. To add a new column in a list, click this plus button. What do I want? I want a text field. New text field. I want a number. Yep, a number is enough. And then person or group. And then stop editing this list. And done. So you can see quite easily I've created a whole bunch of new columns. So in the last version you had to mess around quite a bit to do that. So it's almost as easy as working with Excel. You can just add new fields as you like. So yeah, that's the basic UI and list interface. So now I'll show you the composed looks and branding. So if I go into site settings, we've got this nice change to the look. Let's go into that. There's a whole bunch of different composed looks that you can start with. Which one should I choose today? Let's go with immerse. Okay. So what's neat is here you've got a background image. So what I can do is come here, go into pictures. So here's a picture I took this morning out the window of my office. Drag and drop that here. There we go. And with colors, like you can sort of scroll through, and there's a whole set of nice color palettes. So you would have remembered with SharePoint 2010 you had the theme picker, and you can go in there and choose all sorts of random colors to make it look pretty horrendous. So this actually comes up with color palettes, colors that match. So that's good. You can change the site layout. I'll leave it at that. Change the fonts quite easily. And when you're ready, you can try it out. So you can see with the UI, you've got start over, try it out, nice and easy to use. Let's click that. It's working on it. So there's a nice preview of it. And look at that, it's saying this is a preview of your site in the new theme. Do you like what you see? You got to, no, not quite there yet, so you can go back and change it, or yes, keep it. So let's keep it. Okay, so that's my site settings page, and there we go, my branded site. So it's quite easy. So there's my custom list I created previously. So look at that. Why are you going to need to pay a designer to, brand SharePoint again when you can easily, an end user can do this out of the box? It's quite neat. But yeah, you are going to need to, I guess, bring designers on board if you're wanting to implement public internet sites with SharePoint. So there's a nice SharePoint server publishing site template. So when you create it, as a starting point, you've got a whole bunch of links that if you're an information architect, someone who's focused on defining the structure and information architecture of the site, you've got a whole series of links here to help you out. But if you're a visual designer, you can go through and do design specific stuff. So if I click on design your site, this is the new design manager. So you can basically walk through the device channels I was talking about. You can basically go through here and create different channels that are targeted to different devices, upload design files, edit master pages. So what's neat with master pages, it's got to convert a HTML file to a SharePoint master page. So it's got a process where you can work through that basically gives you different HTML snippets. And what you can do is grab a HTML file, edit the HTML file, and then whack in these different placeholders. And then you can upload that HTML file to SharePoint, and then SharePoint knows, hey, where that placeholder was, I'm going to replace that with SharePoint controls so the page works. So you can using that quite easily. And there's a few blogs that they're showing with screenshots and examples of that in process. So you can quite easily grab a HTML brand and convert it to a master page without having to be a SharePoint expert or knowledgeable with SharePoint. So if we skip through, there's display templates here used for search. So you can actually control and present different types of search results differently in search results. Down here we've got a publish and apply design, and then lastly we've got this create design package, so you can actually go in here and export your whatever design stuff you've done here and export it out as a package and import it into other sites. So that's a nice walkthrough of user experience. Okay, social. All right, very important. And yeah, this stuff's sort of growing and exploding. You've got Yammer usage going up. So Microsoft's acquired Yammer now, but they've invested a lot in this whole social aspect. They gave it a shot with SharePoint 2010, but yeah, frankly, it wasn't that useful. So you had, like, on your My Sites, you had a note board, and people can go there and leave a note, but if you can't really reply to that and have a conversation and add images and links and that sort of thing. So it was extremely limited, very much a one-way communication medium. So not really used heavily. And the reason for that, right, is with Microsoft's SharePoint product cycles, they're usually 3 years. Microsoft were designing SharePoint 2010 3 or 4 years before they released it. Like, they're probably getting stuck into SharePoint 2016 stuff. So when they lay the foundation of what they're planning for the next version, they base it on current technologies and trends and things. So they're always playing catch up, basically. So who knows if there's some other paradigm changing shift in technology in the next few years. You're probably going to have to wait 6 or 9 years for it to show up in SharePoint. Okay, so with social, you've got true micro-blogging. So you can quite easily share links and pictures. You can do app mentions and hashtags, so very much like Twitter. You can like stuff, so you can go through and like people's posts and messages. You can follow people. You can follow sites, content, and conversations. There's a nice news or activity feed, so you can go through and follow people, comment across in different sites and whatnot, and it all shows up aggregated in your news feed. So that's pretty neat. Community. So there's a new site template for running community sites, which has features such as achievements and reputation. So the more questions you answer in a community site, your score goes up, and you can assign badges to people and that sort of stuff. And you've got discussions and blogs. They're pretty much similar to what we had in the previous version. So here's another screenshot of a My Site host landing page. So when you go to your My Site, you can see your news feed and see everything that's going on. And if you browse to other people's My Sites, you can see the typical org chart stuff and what they've been doing and commenting on and whatnot. So very much true social. My tasks, so this is quite neat. In your My Site, you have a tasks link. If you go there, what it does is aggregate all the tasks that you have in all the various site collections around the place that have been assigned to you. They're all rolled up and shown here in one spot, which is great. Like, one of the issues with having so many different sites and site collections is you've got to go into each one or subscribe to alerts, and it can be a bit unmanageable. All right, so let's get into a social demo. Okay. Okay, so here's a My Site. So this is actually the administrator, and I can see all the different people I've followed, what they've been doing, and sort of going through. There's the people I'm following and sort of the documents. So I'm logged into Internet Explorer over here as Dan Jump. So Dan Jump's the CEO. and so that I can go through and basically, let's go to my news feed. Okay, start a conversation. This is a new conversation. And then sort of reply to that. Let's add a picture. Picture of the street. Took this morning. Cool, so people I'm following. So if I click on that, I can drill through. So I'm following all these different types of people. So we've got this guy here, John Evans. Let's see what he's doing. So John Evans is the marketing specialist. So I can go through here and, yeah, sort of like his posts and comments. You can see the org chart, and basically sort of go through and jump around like this. So that's on my site. So you can see with the newsfeed, it's showing stuff from all over the place. So if I go through and comment, you know, on all people's different profiles, it all, you know, shows up in one spot. And if people are following you, then yeah, everyone gets to see all that, which is quite neat. So that's pretty cool. So if I go back here, let's have a look. I'll show you a demo of a new community site template. Okay. Oh, there we go. I was worried there was empty. Okay. So here's a new community site. So you can see here, manage discussions, create categories, assign badges to members. You can see reputation settings. We've got 4 members in here, 3 discussions happening, 5 replies, and we've got people here, and you can, you know, see, you know, they've got this little bar next to them. If I mouse over, 1 discussion, 3 replies, all that stuff. So we can see there's conversations in here. So if I click through on this, counter. Okay, so there's better. So this site is based on new community site templates. It's got 2 replies, 2 likes. And so you can basically go in here and ask questions and you know, get responses from people. So it's very much like Yammer, I guess, but within your organisation. So I guess a true social solution compared to what you had in the past. So you can also go through and assign badges to members. So here's our different members. And you can see all their discussions, the number of replies, and here's a reputation score. So we can see based on this, you know, based on their contribution to this community site, they have a different type of reputation score. Then if I go here, click on moderation, I can give a badge. Gifted badge none. This guy's an expert. Save it. But funny enough, it's the drop-down list, so you can only assign 1 badge to a person at a time, which, how did that work? Expert. It's working on it. But anyway, so that's the whole social and community side. So significant investment and enhancement in the whole social story with SharePoint 2013. Okay. Moving right along. Search. So there's a completely new search architecture. There's only 1 search engine. So with SharePoint 2010, you had Fast Search Server 2010 for SharePoint, which is like a more enhanced add-on that you can purchase with extra servers and provides a whole bunch of extra features. With SharePoint 2013, there's 1 search engine, and it's the next generation fast-based architecture. So what Microsoft has done is, so yeah, going back to, was it early 2008, Microsoft realized their own search engine wasn't the best, so they acquired a Norwegian company, Fast Search and Transfer, for I think $1.2 billion, and within a very short time frame introduced this new Fast Search for SharePoint add-on for SharePoint 2010, which made use of that new search engine. it's had numerous enhancements, and the whole architecture and how it's built, the performance, everything's just, yeah, miles better than what you had with Microsoft's original SharePoint search engine. So Microsoft's continued down that trend. So they've merged Fast and SharePoint Search together. It's not called Fast anymore. You won't see that name around anymore. The architecture is based on Fast, but yeah, SharePoint Search is the only search you get. So all the enhancements and yeah, benefits that you had with Fast is now available to everyone. So I'm not sure if you're an existing Fast customer, how pleased you'd be with that, or what the story is with licensing, because none of that information's out yet. But yeah, quite exciting. So you get nice document previews and all sorts of things like that. So one of the best things that we get with the new search engine is the content search web part. So with SharePoint 2010, for aggregating content, you typically make use of a content query web part, which is nice. So that basically, it was optimized, and you'd use that instead of writing your own querying stuff, which won't be that performant and give you issues. You implement a content query web part and style it, and it'll aggregate and show content within your site collection. But you got that problem again. You got the problem of, you know, everything's siloed into a site collection. You can't aggregate content across multiple site collections. So when you're architecting solutions with site collections, they can only exist in one SQL Server content database. So if you only have one site collection in your organization, that's, you know, going to be an issue if you're trying to shove in a few terabytes of data, because it's all going to be in the one SQL Server database. So architects typically, they do some, you know, sizing, planning, and see, oh, how much, you know, is it a large document management system? You want to store a couple of terabytes? Oh, let's create this structure with 50 or 100 site collections, and it can store as much data as you want, which is awesome, right? But then you got the problem of each of these site collections are silos. You can't easily bring it all together. Well, you could. I mean, previous versions of search indexes everything, and you can basically you know, access and display it, but there was no sort of out-of-the-box web parts or controls that allowed you to do that. So now there's this new content search web part. So like the content query web part, except it uses search as its data source, which is neat. So you can index all your content across all your site collections, however you've structured it, and now you can show content on any site collection, you know, no matter where it's coming from, including stuff that's not in SharePoint. So if you're indexing like an EDRMS system or public websites and stuff, that'll come through and display as well. You've got the nice search in document library, so instead of messing around with filters and whatnot, you can quite quickly search within a document library and it filters down. We've got different result sources, so a whole subsystem around you know, where your content's coming from. You've got remote SharePoint indexes, so that's quite neat as well. What you can do is set up a decentralized model. So if you're an organization that's got, like, you know, it's quite common, you get organizations who've got, oh, we've got like 7 site locations, one in Brisbane, we've got one up north in Karratha, one down here, one there, and then each of those, when you're designing a search solution, one of the problems was you had to go through and index all this content across your WAN, and basically, you know, if you've got a central search index, bring it all in. And that's usually, people don't have the best links between offices, and it causes a lot of dramas. The other option there was you set up a search index or search in each office location. But that's not ideal, because then if I want to search everything, oh, I've got to go to this search engine and then that search engine. So what you can now do is have, when you're executing a search, have it connect through to all these other different remote SharePoint search engines, and, you know, aggregate and bring the results up into one search result. So you can have a decentralized search system. You've got a nice query builder interface as well that you can use to easily build queries. Worth noting, with if you're implementing custom search solutions, the SQL search-based syntax in previous versions is gone, and it's now replaced with FQL, which is fast query language. A lot more powerful and easier to build search queries. And usage analytics. So previously you had usage analytics as a separate service application. Now it's actually embedded and built into the search engine, and it's got a nice sort of recommendations engine as part of that as well. Okay, So here's a high-level logical architecture, and you can see, we've got this analytics processing component, a content processing component, and this architecture is, very similar to fast search that we had in earlier versions. So onto a search demo. All right. Okay, so if we go back to our home site, if it's still working, yep. So I think this is some content I index. So searching within a document library. If I search for fast, there we go. It's filtered. If I search for me, if I search for architecture, there it filters down. If I search for intranet, there, that's hopefully filtered again. So that's quite a nice enhancement. If we go to our search center, search homepage. If I do a search for SharePoint, here's my search results. So you can see down here we've got our filters and refiners, refined by author. So this modified date is neat. So I can basically move this slider here, and it automatically updates again. So I can say, stuff that I did 1 week ago, it automatically updates. If I mouse over items, you get this call out. So this is meant to show like a document preview, but I haven't got Office web applications installed in this environment, because now it needs to be installed on a separate server with 8 gig of RAM dedicated, and don't have that much RAM in my machine. But what I have on this end is, if you notice the URL, we've got .sharepoint.com URL, and this is actually Office 365 preview. So this is a developer preview site. So I've both sort of created one of these sites and got my own virtual machine running. But yeah, you can go in and have a play with all this stuff I'm showing you just by doing a search for Office 2013 preview developer site. You sign up, and yeah, you can go in and start having a play with this and try and search out. So the difference here is, if I mouse over, this is going through the internet on my phone. So it's mouse over. So here's a document. So it's loading a document preview in Office web applications. So I can, without downloading a document, flick through it like this. Same as this one. Mouse over that. There's a PowerPoint preview. Anyways, yeah. So this is actually the slide deck that I'm presenting with now. So that's quite neat. So you can, it solves the problem of searching for stuff and then saying, is that the right document? Download, it's a 10 meg document, waiting, opening it up. That's not my document. Go and search again. You can quite quickly using this preview functionality, see what the contents of the document is. So a few more things. So I can search for people. You've got your people search. So similar to the previous version. So you've got this conversation. So you can search, what people are putting in their my sites and the community sites, and this is, it ties in nicely with the whole social aspect of it all. And we've got videos and reports as well. So that's, I guess, a demo of the search engine. So now for the content by search web part. Okay, so you can see here I've got one web application and site collection, portal.sezai.com. Got here, it's a different web application, publishing.sezai.com. So you should be able to go in here and let's go create a page. It's working on it. So I'm going to go through now and try out the new content search web part. So let's create this page. There you go. Sorry to keep you waiting. Okay, here's a new page. So I can go in and insert a web part, and if I click on content rollup, you've got this you've got content query web part, which is the previous one you used to use. Content search web part. So let's drop that in there. Okay, and let's configure this guy. So immediately it's showing content, right? So if I go in here, edit the web part, it's showing 3 items. We'll change that to 5. If I change the query, so this is now going to launch a nice sort of query builder interface where sort of you can walk through and define the type of content. So select the query. So it's saying recently changed items. I just want to show documents. It's filtering by the current site. I want to say don't restrict results by location. So show me all documents no matter where they're from. So you can see it's got this nice preview that's showing document results from my other web application. So you can specify sorting. You can specify different types of refiners. So pizza's here. Great. I'm hungry. All right. We've got different settings you can apply around query rules, URL rewriting, loading, so you can make it load asynchronously, a priority setting, and then this nice test so you can see the actual SQL query that this thing's building. And let's click OK. So now I've changed the settings there to show me everything in the search engine, irrespective of where it's come from. And you've got these nice display templates, so I can go to list with paging. I've got a nice slideshow, so let's go with the list with paging, and these nice item styles. So diagnostic. So this is cool, you've got this diagnostic view built in. So anyone who's worked with the editing the XSL style sheet in your search core results web part, yeah, there was a nice way that you could output all the properties that are coming through, and you can use it to debug and see what data is coming through. So it's actually built in, so I can see, you know, all the content coming through. That's quite good for developers. So let's go with picture on left and 3 lines on right, and then let's apply that. So you should start seeing, I guess, documents appearing. Okay, let's change that style again. So I don't need a picture because it's documents, right? So if I click OK, and then let's check this page in. So there we go. So I'm at publishing.sezai.com. If I mouse over these, you can see it's linking to content in portal.sezai.com. So out of the box, quite easily, I can use this content search web part, and I can aggregate content across, you know, no matter where it comes from. So that's quite powerful. It's nice that they've sort of implemented a solution to, which is one of the biggest, I guess, pain points with implementing solutions on SharePoint. So just a bit mindful of time, I might skip through this last demo, otherwise we're all hungry and the pizza looks great. Okay. So SharePoint apps and the developer story. All right, so here's a snippet from the SharePoint.Microsoft.com blog. So this is from Jeff Tepper, the Corporate Vice President for SharePoint. And in there it says, use SharePoint as an out-of-the-box application whenever possible. And we encourage you not to modify it, which could add complexity and impact performance and upgradability, right? So it's a big problem. A lot of organizations deploy SharePoint, and to meet your specific business requirements, you typically have people draw up requirements. It must do this, I want it to work specifically like this and look like this and do all this awesome stuff, they're my requirements. So people are like, all right, developers get into it and get stuck in and customize all sorts of stuff. And then when you go to upgrade, people are like, oh, next version of SharePoint's out, I want to upgrade. They're like, oh yeah, that's going to cost you, you know, 500 grand or a couple of million to redo that. All that investment that you've put in to get your solution now, you're basically going to have to redo it all again. And you know, it's a big issue. And I mean, some of the problems there are that organisations have is there's too much demand for SharePoint in the last few years, and so with that, a lot of demand, there's not enough skilled resources out there to meet that demand, right? There's a lot of SharePoint consultants who frankly, the quality of their work's a bit of an issue. And so across the board, and I mean, all the people that are specialising in SharePoint now, if they'd stayed as .NET developers, they'd be earning, you know, at least 15 grand less than they are now. So, I mean, all these problems organisations have with customising and the issue with developers and resources and the problems they get themselves into with SharePoint, Microsoft is, advising people not to customise and use it out of the box.
So you're saying don't address your business goals, just install SharePoint.
But yeah, it's a paradox, right? SharePoint out of the box doesn't meet your business requirements. Most of the time it doesn't, right? You do need to customize it with the current version to meet your business requirements. But then the side effect of that is, if you're looking to upgrade or whatnot, you've got to redo it or you've got to reinvest again. So it's an issue. I mean, Microsoft can easily say don't customize it, but in the real world you've got requirements. You need a solution to do something, so you've got to customize it. So yeah, so they've implemented this new apps model, right? They've implemented an app store, and you can basically go onto your SharePoint app store and buy apps off there. So you know, very similar to your whole Android Play or Google Play App Store and your iTunes. Microsoft's now got an Office App Store and a SharePoint App Store that you can go in and add apps in there. So just quickly going through this. With this version of SharePoint, what's funny with these new SharePoint apps for developers, for SharePoint developers, is you can't write any server-side object model code in a SharePoint app. It's all either has to be using the client-side interfaces, so they've souped up the whole REST and client-side object model interfaces, and they want you to use, you know, client-side development. So all the developers out there have been investing in their JavaScript skills. Lucky you get to use it quite heavily in the next version. They want to move away from people deploying, you know, server-side code. The issue with that is, you know, people are still going to do it, right? There's what Microsoft wants you to do, and there's the approach that people are just going to take irrespective of that. Okay, so with an app, you basically add an app. It shows as it gets installed as like a SP Web or sub-site. You provide permissions for that app on your site, and it's pretty much a self-contained thing. You can also have app parts which sort of make use of it. You've got three models. So you've got developer hosted, so you can actually host your app on other architecture. So, you know, whatever web development servers you have, or whatever, you can host your apps there. You can have an Azure auto provision app, or you can have a SharePoint hosted app. So we're running out of time. So all I'm going to show you is, I was going to go through the whole app store and add an app and whatever. So let me just find it. So here's a Bamboo Weather web part app. So when I had to add this, I basically went through the App Store, clicked it. You got in Central Admin a nice feature to have an app catalog, so people can actually request it, and an admin has to approve apps before they go into your environment. So it's quite easily you don't have to mess around on the server, deploy WSPs, and do all that funky stuff. You can just go in and get these apps off the App Store. And so I had to cut that short. So quickly, what else? So workflow. So you've got this new Windows Azure workflow in SharePoint 15. Using SharePoint Designer, there's a lot of enhancements with that. So that also they recommend you to run on a separate server. Skipping through. So Office Web Apps. When I was setting up my virtual machine, I tried to install Office Web Apps, downloaded it, and it blocks you. It says there's another server product on this server. You can't install Office Web Apps. And the reason is they've designed the next version of Office Web Apps to be used with all these different Microsoft products together. So there's stuff in Exchange and Lync and SharePoint and everything that makes use of Office Web Apps functionality. Skipping right through. There's a big one, right? In SharePoint Designer 2013, there is no design view anymore. So there's a basic code view, but you can't use SharePoint Designer to create data view web parts for, I guess, power users out there who are into that sort of thing. And I guess they're leaving the development up to the developers basically, instead of having power users implementing all sorts of solutions. Which, I mean, there's a massive uproar about this stuff online. A lot of blog posts and people complaining. So Pizza's here, which is great. So after the break, we're going to have Barvik presenting on business intelligence, and that's my talk. Questions?
With all the user functionality that you've got now in things, it's easy to restrict that user functionality. You know, like for example, if your users have the ability to go out and get an ad, and for some reason you want to restrict that, is that easy?
Yeah, so there's a mode you can switch on. So I've actually tested it. It was a part of a demo. What you can do is there's an app catalog, and you can restrict users from adding apps directly. When they add an app, it actually puts a request in. Administrator gets notified. They can go through and say, oh, you know, John Smith's requested this weather app. Approve or reject it. Once it gets approved, then people then have it available for them to use. So yeah, you can add that level of control. Yep. Anyone else? Well, yeah, running low on time, probably want to get stuck into the food. So yeah, thank you for coming along, and